Kia ora, councillors. All right, we will reconvene our LTP hearings meeting, continuing today on the 15th of May. So we will start with Karakia.
Morning, councillors. Whakataka taho ki te uru, whakataka taho ki te tonga, kia makinikina ki uta, kia mataratara ki tai, e he aka ana te atakura, he tio, he huka, he ho hu, tihei mauri ora.
Thank you, Chris. All right, we've got some further apologies to note, so we'll do another motion for those. We've got apologies for lateness from Councillor Hodge, who's attending a burial today. And we also have early departure for Councillor Downard. Do I have a mover, Councillor Clarkson, and a second, Councillor Nicol? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, councillors, we've got a very, very, very full agenda today. So we've got a bell at the ready. We've got a timer to go up on screen. And just so councillors understand, if a presenter has 5 minutes or the 10 minutes, that is the time they will get, including questions from councillors. So there may be situations where you've put your light on and you want to ask questions, but if the time is up, the time is up and we do need to move on. So I'm just asking for your understanding in regard to that situation, and maybe we don't all get to ask the questions we would like to, but I suppose we'll make that a note to speakers that if they do want to have time for councillors to ask questions of clarification, that they will need to allow for that in their presentation.
Madam Chair, will you have a
Kia ora.
process if we do have a question that we do want answered that can be utilised through democracy to get that answer and circulated to all councillors?
Can we do that?
It
Take a note of it.
may not be very often that we do, but I'm just wanting a process that if we do want information that we can get it in a transparent way.
I think that in general, we can probably give effect to that. But if each presenter then triggers 5 questions that
Sure.
then need following up on by staff and then distribution of those answers, that could then create a
Yeah.
significant workload
I don't
for
anticipate
democracy.
everyone's gonna have 5
We'll do that with discretion. All right. Okay. Anything else? Because I do see our first,
So
Councillor Clarkson.
disclosures, so we're going to get to disclosures in relation to people appearing today?
We can do further disclosures.
Yeah.
We did ask for disclosures yesterday, which I took to mean the entire hearings process.
Yeah.
But if there's additional disclosures people would like to note, we can note those now.
Well, I'd just like to make a comment that I am a member of Forest and Bird, so I won't partake in any of that discussion. I noticed in the list last night that there is Forest and Bird submitting today, so I'll stay out of that. Yeah.
Well, I suppose to note, and it is in my interest register that I am a member of Federated Farmers as well, and they will be presenting today. All right. On to our first presenter. We've got Kristel Van Houte. I see you online, Kristel. Kia ora. This Kristel is speaking to the submission from Rocha, Aotearoa, New Zealand. This is on page 137 of your agenda packs. Welcome, Kristel. You've got 5 minutes, and you would have heard my previous briefing that if you would like to allow time, then you need to accommodate that within those 5 minutes. I mean, time for questions.
Cool, thank you. I can start?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, kia ora. Okay, as you heard, I'm Kristel. I'm the National Director for Rocha, Aotearoa, New Zealand. We're a national organisation, but our flagship project and our community project here is in Raglan, Whangaroa, the Karakia project. As you might already know, the Karakia project's been around for about 15 years. I've been running it and I'm a co-founder of the project. Before that, I was a dairy farmer and also an ecologist, both overseas and at Niwa and Hamilton. So, but I've been running this project for 15 years, since 2009. And 8 years ago, we received funding from Regional Council, from the Natural Heritage Fund, and before that from other smaller funds as well. That funding has been absolutely incremental in the growth of this project and the success of this project. And I just really put in my submission, obviously, to ask councillors to consider continuing this fund as well as potentially increasing it. And I think you already know from the numbers that you've received how much community groups can do with this money. We have low overheads and we have incredible volunteers. For the Karakia project itself, we have up to 100 regular volunteers every year who commit at least several hours per month, if not per week or per fortnight. But in terms of our volunteers, it's not just the people that want to go and do the conservation work, it's also the people willing to help us raise funds, which obviously brings a huge return on that investment that council makes to this project. But there's also other probably unaccounted for volunteer hours, like the farmers that live around the mountain that support us, that give us access, that help our volunteers get up there, and that also do their own work. And because of the work that we're doing, this whole community is becoming involved in this biodiversity project. I'm not going to go into all the details about what our project does because there isn't the time, but I want to assure you that you're all really welcome to come and visit. We'd love to show you around. I know previous councillors have come to visit, and I think the groundswell of movement that you get when volunteers and community get involved, and that's translated into our backyard hub program where people are trapping and participating in biodiversity work in their own backyards, on their own properties, and that's predator control, but also planting streams and riparian areas and just protecting all biodiversity in this community. We have involvement with huge numbers of students and kids in this community through our education programs. So, we're probably not even counting, financially we're counting, what the return is, which is probably, you double, 3 times what the council is putting in. We're bringing in extra money from into the region, but we're also probably again tripling that amount of effort in terms of calculated volunteer efforts, landowners and local community. And as a result, we have greater social cohesion, people, getting together for a common cause and making this, the Waikato a better place. Because I'm not just speaking on behalf of myself, I'm also speaking on behalf of every community group out there. In saying that, we have absolutely loved working with the council. The council has been supportive of our work since the day we started. The staff have been incredible, and we have been able to advocate and to kind of champion the council as much as you have championed us. It's often when I'm at presentations and talking to local community that people ask, what's the council doing for you? And we're really proud to say that council has supported us for over 10 years, and that council does make a difference in supporting community initiative like this. And I think it makes people feel more proud, but also just a little bit less reluctant to part with their rate dollar. And I think you can see that from the response that you've had in the submission process, that people are willing to put their money to this. So thank you. I invite you to join us one day and come and visit. And I appreciate the time to speak to you.
Great. Thank you, Kristel. Really appreciate you taking the time to not only put in a submission, but to appear before us and speak to that submission. Those 5 minutes are up, so thank you very much for that. All the best for the rest of your day.
Madam Chair, may
Oh,
I
me
ask a
too.
question?
It's
Sure.
5 minutes 5 minutes.
Just noting that we have a little short brief break after your presentation. Just a really super quick question, Kristel. A couple of groups have indicated that training might be something that the regional council could do. I'm thinking along the lines of chemical handling, etc., for plant control. Is that something that would be valuable to groups like yourself?
Training's always helpful. We do have some of that in place ourselves. And we're also probably in a place to sometimes help newer groups as we've grown and benefited already from the support we've had. Training is helpful.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Thank you, Madam Chair,
Thank
for
you.
your tolerance.
Great. Yes, and just reflecting on some of the comments from councillors at the end of yesterday around adherence to timing, and we all play a part in that,
Madam Chair,
councillor. So yes,
could we clarify? Because I think if you're presenting, the bell indicates the end of your time, which means there's no questions. So can we?
no. So we're
you
doing
didn't clarify.
a bell at 4 minutes to
Okay.
indicate to speakers that they have 1 minute left, so that they can take note and wrap up, and
Okay.
either take that last final minute themselves or allow that minute for a question
It's fine.
or two if people are very efficient in the manner in which they ask.
Yeah, I just noting, Madam Chair, and sorry to hold the process up again. That wasn't really clarified to the presenter.
Yes, well,
Okay.
we'll do that now.
Can I
So,
clarify
thank you.
timings though? I thought that a group was entitled to 10 minutes and an individual 5 minutes.
I have the run sheet. I did not set the times for each of these individuals. That was my understanding,
Yeah.
but I do not, I don't know.
I would have thought that a Rocha, Aotearoa, New Zealand would have got 10 minutes.
On the
what I'm
run
saying.
sheet, Counselor, if a group is listed twice, then they have 10 minutes. If they are only listed once, they are given 5 minutes.
Like, can I just get clarification? Just FYI, I'm sure, Chris, we always used to have 10 in the old days, eh? 5 seems
I know 5 seems
incredibly short when
too
you've-
short to
when
me
you've
as
driven
well.
from Colville is, not that I enjoyed the Colville one, but nonetheless, to be fair. Yeah.
Yeah, so, thank you, councillor. Just without prolonging the conversation, I guess with the number of submitters we got this year and the limited time to do it in, we're trying, the team have done their best how to fit it.
Yeah.
And there are 6 that have got double slots, so they obviously applied for them.
All right. But hey, we got 5 minutes up our sleeve now.
Madam Chair, have we closed off this one or?
We do still have time.
I was just wondering if anyone's wrapped up.
Sorry, does somebody have another question for Kristel? No. Oh, I thought I had already done that. Sorry. All right, we're
Thank
starting
you.
off good. Thank you very much, Kristel. Once again, I really appreciate the time that you have taken in putting in a submission and the time you've taken to present to that submission today. It's very helpful for councillors in their consideration of this LTP.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Okay, I do know that we have Phillip Moon, our next presenter, in the room. So Phillip, if you are ready, I'll ask you to come forward. Yep, just have a seat there, and then if you sure. Okay, councillors, Mr. Moon's submission is on page 169 of the agenda pack.
Okay.
All right, so you would have heard the previous presentation that we have 5 minutes. We will ring a bell at 4. You can either wrap up in that last minute, or you can allow that
I think
minute
I'll
for
be through
for
in
question.
less than 5 minutes.
Kia ora.
Okay.
Over to you.
Thank you. My name is Phillip Moon. I live on Bruntwood Road. I've been there for 5 decades. In that sense, I'm fully invested in the community. In terms of family growing up there, attending Taumahiri school. In fact, I think 4th generation at that school. The first generation would have walked and ridden a horse there. And of course, yeah, I think it was yesterday or the day before Taumahiri had its 140th anniversary. So that's a little bit of background. Obviously, my submission is a very personal one. I cannot say whether it fully reflects, a portion of the community. I sense that there would be concern in relation to a substantial increase in rates as rates are increasing all around. However, I would like to preface this by saying I have a very positive view of public transport. I lived for 4 decades off and on in Singapore. When I wasn't in Singapore, I was on Bruntwood Road. So I saw the evolution of public transport there. And the last time I was there for 7 years, I only used public transport. No car, no bike, just bus, MRT and train. And I saw and experienced how a good integrated public transport scheme can work. Of course, there's no comparison between Singapore and Taumahiri. I will say one thing, perhaps there is one thing that I take from Singapore, and that's long-term planning and buy-in from the community because the service was so good. Basically, I'm here to say I'm opposed to the idea of a rating proposal based on geographical distance. I've tried as best I can to break that down in my personal circumstance using Google Earth. It won't be completely accurate to the meter, but basically we do come into the 5 kilometre distance from a route. One thing I wasn't clear about whether it was from a route or from a bus stop, and there is a difference. I don't think you can wave the bus down. So I presumed it was bus stop. But anyway, we do come within that. What I felt about this was neighbours only 300 metres from me. On the right, it would be the 3rd one down. On the left, the 2nd one down. Would not be captured by this rating proposal, but in all practical circumstances would have the same benefits. They would have to take a car to the bus stop or bike. In some cases, it would be difficult to park a car. So all those barriers to usage would be in place, the same for my neighbours as me. So in that sense, I think in real practical terms, the same benefit would accrue to them as to me. And the logical step from there is to say that really the rating should be spread out across all ratepayers. I'm very supportive of it. I've actually have had a look at the long-term plan and the transport plan. I see the aspirations and the goals, and I do support them. And I'm happy, to be paying a proportion. But I worked out that if we were to pay an increase based on the 5 kilometre distance, effectively, if it happened right now, it would be a 36% increase in my rates, made up of the transport component and the 5.4% increase. So somewhere around about $374 on top of my rates. That brings me to the concept of social license and equity, and I think in both cases that's not met. I don't think the social license there is to, and I also I don't talk for because I'm not in that situation, even worse for people within 800 metres who don't use this public transport. So I think buy-in comes from a general rate, which is apportioned to transport rather than some arbitrary, I see it as arbitrary selection of a distance. If it's 5 kilometres, why not 4.5? It's 800, why it's not? Why isn't it a kilometre? There's no rational sense to that in terms of the quality of services provided. So that's me. 16 seconds
Righto.
to go.
Thank you. Councillor Strange.
Yeah, thank you. I'll be very quick. Thank you for your submission. Appreciate your thoughts around long-term view, noting, yep, a good spread across the district would be a good way forward for a general rate, perhaps. Also note you're talking about park and ride, which would also be a long-term view as well. So thank you for your submission. I'll leave time for no one else.
Thank you.
Kia ora. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moon. Oh. Sorry.
Can I just seek clarity here, please?
Yes.
I had the button pushed and I'm not wanting to, be ridiculous, but
Sorry,
if there's no
Mr.
point
Moon,
in,
Mr. Moon,
no, don't, no.
I'm just checking. Councillor Smith, did you have a question for Mr.
I
Moon?
did, Mr. Moon. You've said no. Waikato District has said no to this rating, and you've answered to question 2, option 2. Currently, Waikato District rate across through the general rate at $2.50 per 100,000, which, just for example, if your house was $2 million, your property, you would pay around $50 currently. Would you be happier with that? Yes. Yeah, appreciate that, but equity. Yeah.
I'm just sorry.
All right, thanks for that.
Thank you, Mr. Moon. All right, councillors, I'm gonna need some collegial effort here, or we're gonna get really bogged down today.
Madam Chair, I think there's some confusion from the presenters. I think he thought he had till that ended and the bell was an indication. Really,
No,
people need to know at the end of the bell,
I said
that's
to
the
him
end of
4
their time.
minutes, the bell would be rung. I
just
will
verify.
repeat that for
Yeah.
every speaker.
I just thought I'd add, I really appreciate the effort to make every single one stick to 5 minutes, because yesterday it was a bit variable, but I think that considering we have those 5-minute slots in between, we're obviously not going to have a 5-minute recess between them all, and just perhaps allow those 1 or 2 questions to take that 1 extra minute, which it has with the last 2, and that should probably be quite a relaxed way to get through the day. It's a medium ground thing.
Sorry, Madam
Councillor
Chair, I'm going to
Barnard.
put my 2 cents in with as well. We've got a pretty blocked agenda today, and then I think it's only half a day tomorrow. For me, for these people to come and submit out of all the submissions, we should be giving them time, and we should be giving them time that we can ask them questions, because that's the whole idea of submitting, that we're getting that personal touch and we ask questions. So I feel if we do run out of a bit of time, then we need to because we've got gaps in between this afternoon's quite blocked, but it's mostly councils presenting. But these individuals that come, I'd like time for the councillors to ask questions.
And I understand that, and where I can facilitate that, I will. But also, people have a certain time that they have been indicated as their time to show up, and I don't want to run in to that either. So I've got to manage this, and I'm going to do that as equitably as I can.
Madam Chair, just noting the constraints, perhaps it would be handy if the clock went to 4 minutes, which gives us a minute at the end to ask questions.
I am going to extend the option to each speaker. So they can either take the whole 5 minutes, and I'm looking at the speakers who are already in the room. You can either take your full 5 minutes and have no time for questions, or you can allow sufficient time for questions. Councillor Strange.
Thank you, Chair. Incredibly briefly, what would help as well is I assume that everyone has read the submissions. So
Yes.
people could take the submissions as read, and then we can ask questions within the 5 minutes.
All right. Okay. Onwards. All right. Next up, we have Matthew Dean. So councillors, Mr. Dean's submission is on pages 139, 187, 246, 383, 407, and 462. As you have heard, Matthew, you have 5 minutes. There will be a bell at 4. You can take as much of that 5 minutes as you would like, but if you would like to entertain questions from councillors, you need to allow time for that.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you for including me on your agenda today. I'm going to try and keep my verbal presentation brief so that I've got more time to answer questions, because I believe the substance of my presentation is in my written submission, not so much this submission. I want to highlight in my written submission the section I wrote on the multiplier effect of farming in the Waikato region. I also highlighted in that the high cost of naturing, and I hope I get some questions on that. And for the drainage districts of the Waikato, their designation as a permitted activity. My discussion on that, I think, is really important. I'll just refer now to my notes. I just want to highlight the points. Firstly, I have a view that even without the effects of climate change, the Waikato Regional Council's present costly regime of regulating drainage districts' impact on freshwater quality will eventually lead to the abandonment of many drainage districts. This seems unnecessary when there is evidence that drainage districts have a much smaller impact on water quality and the natural beauty of the lower Waikato than pest fish such as koi carp, pest waterfowl, and pest exotic wetland plants. The answer, in my view, is to focus community and Waikato Regional Council resources on improving the appearance and functioning of the lower Waikato wetlands, such as at Karakia and at Mangatawhiri, and give the drainage districts the best possible chance as a permitted activity to face up successfully to the challenges of climate change. I'm going to skip one thing. I'm going to skip one part by just saying that in working with the Waikato Regional Council, staff, they're a great team, but we as farmers actually don't feel that we're part of the team. We feel excluded. And I think a reform that needs to be made is somehow for us farmers to feel part of the Waikato Regional Council team and consulted and our input valued. And I also sort of feel as if the drainage districts are disadvantaged because there isn't high level mechanical engineers and civil engineers amongst the decision makers at Waikato Regional Council, and I feel that's a disadvantage, and it sort of shows in some of the decisions that are made in the drainage districts. Now I'll leave the floor open for questions.
Kia ora, thank you. Any questions from councillors? Councillor Kneebone.
Yeah, no, thanks, Matthew. I was just trying to understand what you are recommending instead of, in terms of the permitted activity rate, what you are recommending instead of what we're proposing. Because you said here that 50% should come from general and 50% from properties 50 hectares above, because the larger properties are contributing twice. I didn't quite get the.
It's not the same subject. That's completely different subject.
Yeah, I
But
realise
what I'm
this is your one submission.
Yeah. Yes.
What I'm really referring to is instead when a drainage district has some work to be done on it, like a capital works or a maintenance work.
Sorry, could I just seek clarification? This is our opportunity to question Matthew on all of his submissions.
All of the submissions.
Yeah. So I'm asking for some clarification on your submission on the permitted activity rate charging mechanism, because you put a submission in on that.
I'm a little bit confused on that.
Oh, so
I
this is,
can't
this
link
is
the two.
your response to the rural compliance and support question, and you,
Yes.
you said that you disagreed with it. You believe 50% should come from general rates and
I-
50% from properties 20 hectares and above. This is because those larger
no, sorry, I
properties are
didn't confuse you,
contributing
but-
twice.
Yeah, I'm sorry because I'm not familiar with all the nuances of these things. I really can't answer that question.
That's
sorry.
right. Yeah.
All I'm saying is that the drainage districts have a very high cost of compliance when they want to renew their resource consent. That's where I'm driving at. And what I'm saying is if they became a permitted activity, that would make it would result in a great reduction in cost, but it would also give us every chance to be successful in combating climate change in the future. But if we're burdened down with a lot of cost, we're just that less well equipped to deal with climate change.
Thank you very much. Ben, would you like to thank?
Yes, thank you very much for your presentation. I'm particularly interested in the economic benefit analysis that you've attached to your infrastructure, the 7-to-1 multiplier effect.
Oh, thank you. That is important.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Mr. Dean. Much appreciated. All right. Next, we have a presentation from Forest and Bird. We've got Kate James presenting. Kate, I believe, is online. And councillors, this is pages 120, 160, 202, 276, 403, 418, and 1044 in your agenda packs.
Excuse me.
All right.
Could I just ask a quick question? Is there a way that we can make the presenter a bit bigger and the clock smaller? Or is
If we take the timer off the screen completely, then when presenters are online, they can't see the time.
okay? No worries. It'd just be nice to see them a little bit bigger. Okay.
All right. So welcome, Kate. How we're doing this, you have 5 minutes. We will ring a bell at 4. It's over to you whether or not you want to take the entire 5 minutes or whether you want to allow time in that 5 minutes for councillors to ask for points of clarification or ask questions. You can take your submission as read, though. So over to you, Kate.
Kia ora, good morning. Thank you for giving me this time slot. I just wanted to reiterate that I am an environmental scientist. I've been working in conservation space on the Coromandel Peninsula for more than 20 years now. So I am a really dedicated advocate for the preservation of our native environment, obviously, and I'm currently working for Forest and Bird as the regional manager in the Waikato area. So really stoked to see the opportunity to have a say on increasing the biodiversity rate, and really happy for it to go up to $15 per property. And I can give you some feedback from some conservation hui I've attended recently that that people are really keen for that to happen. And that's, word on the street. It's going to be fantastic for our conservation communities and our community conservation groups if we can make that happen. I've been working with these groups for many, many years, and I'm seeing so many struggles and this kind of competitive mindset where there's not enough money in the pot to go around. So just wanted to say we really, Forest and Bird, strongly advocate for that $15 biodiversity rate per property. So that's fantastic. That would really help. And I think it's really cost effective, I wanted to say as well, which I'm sure you know, because the value back from giving money to community conservation groups is so huge with the amount of volunteer labour that goes, particularly my area of speciality is the Coromandel Peninsula. So I know we just have so many people working for free on the ground, and that would just really maximise the value coming from that rate. So I think that's a really great idea. I also wanted to say that Forest and Bird fully supports stepping up pest management with better security. I saw this written in there. And that, of course, again, includes boosting funding to community conservation groups and supporting iwi in this space as well, which is something that's really, we're seeing up and coming, particularly on the Coromandel, and I'm really pleased about that as well. So I did mention the Waikato Regional Council Climate Action Roadmap because I've read this, I really like it, and I think it just needs some actions to come out of that. Forest and Bird's really supportive of that piece of work and of activating those themes across that document. And finally, I just wanted to say that around infrastructure design and things like this, we advocate for planning and infrastructure design that does suit our changing climate. I know Waikato Regional Council is one of the better councils in this respect, and I'm pleased that that I live here. And we just wanted to reiterate that making room for rivers, for floodplains, for wetlands, and allowing areas of coast to move and change as they need to with climate change. It's something that Forest and Bird really strongly advocates for as well. So therefore, we love the idea of region-wide spatial planning. We fully support that. And finally, we fully support the Coastal Marine Biodiversity Program. I'm a marine scientist by trade, so had to get that one in there. So that's me. Any questions?
Thank you very much for that, Kate. Councillor Marr.
Yeah, thank you very much for your presentation, Kate. And just picking up on your comments around that coastal marine area, it's something that we have dropped the ball a little bit on, but certainly have our eyes firmly placed on now in that space and the threats that are coming at us in that space. So thank you very much. I will note that you had 2 submissions on the natural heritage. So I'm assuming one was yourself personally and one was Forest and Bird?
Correct, yes. I did the online survey for myself, and this submission is between Upper Coromandel Forest and Bird Branch, Mercury Bay Forest and Bird Branch. So I'm representing those 2 branches today.
Okay, thanks for that clarity. And once again, thank you very much for your submission today.
Thank you. Any other questions? 45 seconds. No, I'll let someone else have that time. So thank you very much for your time. And I look
Thank
forward
you
to seeing
so
that
much.
biodiversity rate go up.
Thank you very much, Kate. Much appreciated.
Okay, thank you.
Right, just in time, Simon. We are 10 minutes ahead. Look at that. See, gosh, we're either behind or we're ahead. We're never just right. It's never Goldilocks around here.
Brilliant. Sure, we had a submission. I'm not sure if it's been sent through. Oh, you do. Oh, well, thank you very much.
Yes. Oh, sorry. So just before you kick off, Simon. So Simon is speaking on behalf of the Home of Cycling Charitable Trust. This is on page 2. The submission is on page 277 of your agenda packs. Thank you very much for coming and presenting to council today. We have 5 minutes set aside for your presentation. We will ring a bell at 4. You can take your presentation or your submission as read. In that 5 minutes that's been allotted, you can either take up that entire time or you can allow time for councillors to ask for points of clarification or ask questions. So over to you, Simon.
Thank you very much.
Gotta.
Appreciate. I'll introduce my general manager, Dion Mercer, who's here with me. As mentioned, we're here on behalf of the Cycling Trust that runs the National Velodrome that the Regional Council so generously supported back over a decade ago. And we're here to submit on the Economic Development Fund, and really just to highlight that project, and we'll just whistle through the submission there, to just really amplify how much benefit the project has had for not only New Zealand, but the Waikato in particular. And it's really a new project that we're embarking on to, again, zero in on a particular benefit that Regional Council could support. It was established in 2010. The goals were high performance and community cycling and sport in general. Since that time, we've been open a decade, and we've just announced a new facility that we're embarking on shortly. We had, without the support of what was EW back then, Environment Waikato, the National Velodrome would not have commenced. It would not have opened. The regional council put in $6 million towards a $28 million project. The government put in about $8 million, and the rest came from the likes of Trust Waikato's, lotteries, and all of the gaming and other foundations around the region. We had a debt of about $3 million, but we're able to raise about 26 million. We now have over 160,000 users to the velodrome. We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary only about a month ago. We had some dignitaries there, which you'll see on the next page. And it was fantastic really to pull some of the alumni from the project into our 10-year event. And it's the following page, if you could just flick through. Sorry, I don't have the, there we have our 10-year opening day. And Dion, we had a fantastic, how many thousand did we get along to that?
We had about 4,000 people come through for the day.
Just if I could get you to hit your, on the right. Great.
So we had about 4,000 people come through for the day. We had our VIP ceremony at the start, which was the official launch of the new Sports Hall of Fame. We opened up the velodrome to the public. We basically had everything going. We had our trike program, boxing, the gym, the track, and then we had our schools, Battle of the Schools competition in the afternoon, which was hugely successful. So yeah, it was a pretty full-on day. I felt like an 80-year-old man when I got home that night, but it was a great day.
So we just want to touch now on a new project that really does hone in on social and cultural outcomes for the region and for the country, and that is the New Zealand Sports Hall of Fame. So we're about to enter into a new phase, as I mentioned, where we set up a new, I guess, exhibit on the front of the velodrome. We'll show you a couple of plans. And we're including the New Zealand Sports Hall of Fame, if we could just move to the next slide, and the Māori Sports Hall of Fame in that project. So there are some real cultural and educational benefits from this. We plan to make this a free visit for all school children across the Waikato region. There's 85,000 students across those three school age groups, and we have support from a number of trusts, including Sport New Zealand and a number of corporate sponsors as well. We acknowledge that the Regional Council's purpose in zeroing in on the actual submission process, we support the continuation of the Regional Development Fund, again just highlighting the benefit it had to the velodrome, both economically and socially, and from a community point of view and from a health and recreation point of view over the past 10 years. This new project will reach out to all school kids and bring tourism and other benefits. And the final page we've got there just really highlights some of those benefits and in terms of activity, etc. I'm noting we've got about 30 seconds. We're just finishing up with a few plans, concepts that you'll see in your files there of how it will look. If you just hop across to the next stage, and these are conceptual, but pretty well advanced now in terms of the designs. And I guess just zeroing in on the benefit from a regional point of view, I think when we submitted back in 2010, 2011, it was about 2 cups of coffee per ratepayer, I think, because that's $6 million, probably $10 million today. But a contribution of $1 or $2 million towards this project. It's about a $14 million project. It's probably about a half a cup of coffee per resident per year to pay off, I guess, a grant like that, if you were talking about from a ratepayer point of view. So happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Great. Any very quick questions? If not, Councillor Clarkson, would you like to thank our presenters?
Yeah, look, I just wanted to thank you for making the effort to come in today and to speak to us, and for submitting such a comprehensive, I would say, submission with all the attachments, which we have had a look at. So yeah, thanks for all the great work you do out there. I'm a great fan of the velodrome myself. I think it's turned out to be way more than we would ever have expected. Thank you.
2-6.
Go ahead.
And look, Simon acknowledged at the time it was a somewhat controversial in the community, and so full credit to you and everyone else involved for having the tenacity to push through, because as you've said, it's turned out to be a really successful project, and the regional council been quite proud of having contributed to it.
Thank you, Ruth. Sure. I've been roped in the last few months to get back some momentum with this project, but Dion's doing a fantastic job. We now have visitor counters, and we really do have close to 200,000 visitors. And of course, it connects with the cycleway and the river, very close by the river. And we have some plans for a lot more than just within the velodrome. A number of other sports are looking to come to the facility. We could spend another half hour talking about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate you coming in. All right, now we are slightly ahead of time. So up next, after a tea break, was Jim Cotman and Trevor Simpson. I do see Trevor here. Is Jim? You're speaking on behalf of both? Okay. And I noted that Kelly Deihl wanted to speak after you. Are you speaking for Kelly as well? Yeah. You got the whole shebang. Far out, far out. Okay. Well, I'm just suggesting that we could bring you forward now, Trevor, if that's all right. I will do the whole lot. So if you're speaking on behalf of Jim Cotman, yourself, as well as Kelly Deihl, then you, my friend, get 15 minutes.
You find out who your friends are when they come. There's two parts to it, right? Because I thought I had 5 minutes. Go with the 10:50 one first. We have to adapt. I presume this is on now.
Yes.
So my written submission, which you had previously, was followed up by two further ones. One is the 10:50 one, which I thought I had 5 minutes from. So we have taken, between Matthew and I, we've taken some parts so we don't go over the same material. So can I start now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So good morning. Thanks for having us. And I've got 2 5-minute sessions today, which has obviously changed. I'm representing a number of groups, and so there'll be some parts that I'll cover that are not in my written submission. I presume you've read the submission, which is correct.
Yes.
So I'm splitting this first part into two. There's the key objectives of the proposed long-term plan, the $400,000 budgeted for Lake Waikare and the Whangamarino wetlands, and the third one, which is over here, is a flood protection and land drainage. The key objectives in the long-term plan, proposed long-term plan, 2 of them: keeping rates, fees, charges affordable, using resources effectively and efficiently. Keeping rates, fees and charges affordable. I realise without a doubt this is an extremely difficult task. And as an elected council, your first responsibility is to those ratepayers who elected you to represent them. Regarding flood protection and drainage assets under your control, you have to be sure all the beneficiaries of such schemes pay their fair share of the costs. We all know this is not the case presently. With this huge projected borrowing for flood protection assets in the long-term plan, does that include central government's share or not? If not, this must be sorted out before any money is borrowed. Your key objective of keeping things affordable can only be achieved if all beneficiaries of the schemes are paying their fair share. In my written submission, I'm now talking about using resources effectively and efficiently. In my written submission, I was quite blunt about where I think this organisation is rather effectively and efficiently. How do you, as ratepayers representatives, and I'm looking at you lot, gauge the effectiveness and the efficiency of this? How do you gauge that? And I'm asking you to test that. And the only way I see is you get the chief executive who you employ to prove staff run an efficient and effective council. So we still have to prove that. There can be no comparisons with other councils or fudging of percentages and rate increases. I want the elected council, you lot, to call for a no rise in the general rate and uniform rate for at least the next year. I want you to forego the so-called projected 6% rate rise. And I got that 6% from staff, so it's a vague figure. Just imagine the headline you'll get from that. You then inform the chief executive who you employ, he must perform all the tasks agreed upon in the long-term plan, but has to reduce his operating costs by 6%. Okay? This is how you test effectiveness and efficiency. I can give you plenty of examples where there's plenty of fat in the system. I didn't bring it today because I thought I had 5 minutes. No amount of KPIs beats a slight turn of the tap of the funds to find efficiencies. Everyone else is doing the exercise. Government, businesses. Now it's your turn. You might think it's only a few cups of coffee, like the last speaker said, but all of a sudden, next minute, it's 10 cups of coffee. It's not your money. It's the ratepayers' money. So you have to get the best for the ones that voted for you. The ratepayers deserve a better approach. As I understand it, you employ the chief executive, so you can instruct him on what direction he should take. I'll pause there because that's part A. And so maybe questions if somebody has.
Councillor Clarkson, do you have a question? No, no questions at this time. Go ahead and continue.
I'll go on to the next sheet now, which is headed to submissions on the part 2, flood protection and land drainage. I'm back. I told you it wouldn't be pretty. Yeah. I'm also part of a ratepayers group which is, oh, sorry, I missed one page on my other one. Sorry for Jim Cotman. Sorry, very sorry. Apologise. We'll go back to
good. Yeah, plenty of time.
improving Lake Whangamarino wetland and Lake Waikeri. Sorry. I see the budget amount, Jim. Jim's talked to me about this and he's approved of what I've written here. The budget amount of 400,000 for this project. I must point out from the outset that if there was 400,000 left over from anything, targeted or not, I'd prefer it credited to ratepayers or used to pay off debt. If, as I suspect, you want to spend the money, let's spend it on some tangible project that can make a significant start of change in the above Whangamarino wetland and Lake Waikeri. We have studies in this area going back 20 years. Studies, and now more bloody studies because we've had a weather event. Come on, there's always going to be something. I, along with council and many others, completed a catchment plan for this area in 2018. And that plan, there are two obvious problems. Koi carp and the fish and game dock weir, which is, I presume you're all familiar with. Koi carp is in the too hard basket at the moment. So let's focus the 400,000 to finalise the future of the weir. Does it stay or does it go? Presently, the weir consent is up for review. We as ratepayers were promised a public meeting, liaison with representatives of our Flood Protection Committee, nothing. Councillors, please, let's make some positive move on this issue with this ratepayers' money. Once again, one of the key objectives is to use ratepayers' money efficiently. More studies after 20 years of reports is not going to be very effective with our money. Decide whether the weir stays or goes definitely is an effective use of our resource. We're over studies. We need some decisions. That's got to come from you people. We need some decisions to move forward. Right, any questions on it?
Any questions? Councillor Clarkson.
Yeah, no, thanks for your comments. Are you aware of the origin of the weir, though? Do you understand the fact that that was a legal requirement put in place in order to effectively manage Whangamarino and protect it from sedimentation and blackwater events and all the other stuff that goes on?
Yes, but since it went in, it's proven to be very controversial. Whether
Well,
it's
controversial is one thing, but have you got some evidence or information which might allow me to understand why you think removal of the weir would be of use to the overall health of the wetland? Can you give me some evidence rather than just anecdote and comment?
I think not today, but I think we can. There's been a successful court case against the weir by local property owners, and there was a big payout because it didn't perform. In the review of the consent, the DOC and Fish and Game have not done any of the monitoring work they were supposed to do. And
Well, again, these are comments. I'm happy for you to provide me with information.
Yes, I will.
After this event, but I'd like to see real information and data and not just anecdote.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I get that back to you?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, the second part now, flood protection and land drainage. I'm also representing a ratepayers group that wishes to influence the direction of the long-term plan. I wish to comment on two aspects of our submission. The level of borrowing relating to ICM and flood protection and targeted rate. The level of borrowing. Once again, are the targeted ratepayers of the flood protection schemes paying for somebody else's share? Where is the transparency showing all beneficiaries are contributing or to the borrowing, or in particular, paying off the debt? You mentioned in the proposed long-term plan, you haven't been able to deliver on projects over recent years. One of the main reasons for this failure is the inability of your regulatory departments and the ICM department being able to work together to achieve effective and efficient outcomes. We want you, the targeted ratepayers representatives, to instruct the Chief Executive to make all flood protection and drainage assets reclassified as permitted activity, and that means they will not need resource consents. This will give certainty to delivery because a lot of the delays are because of the consent process. A long time is taken to get consents. And this will reduce borrowing costs by a guess, absolute guess of 15%. I believe other regional councils do this, in particular Horizons. Resource consent charges and costs for flood protection and land drainage assets are the biggest drain on resources this council has, and don't add one single piece of difference to the end result. Not one piece other than delay, cost. Now, when I say the cost of a consent, it's only $1,000 to submit to the council a consent. It's the reports, the science behind everything that's required. That's where the money is. We've just had recently at Churchill East some big pumps replaced, and yeah, $300,000 for the consent. Temporary pumping. The pumps are out of phase because they had to be replaced. You know, I mean, you got to turn the power off and turn it back on again for 3 months. Massive generators, 10 of them there with temporary pumping. Had to get a consent to put a hired pump there to do the same job as the bloody power one was doing that we're replacing. You know, come on. We, as targeted ratepayers, have tried all manner of suggestions to make this happen, to become under permitted activity. It has to come from you, our representatives. You have to instruct the Chief Executive We want these to be permitted activities. And then we might get some progress. If you don't make this change, your bold statements in the proposed long-term plan, keep rates affordable, efficient in delivery, adaptive financial management, against, you don't know how much you're going to borrow. You says in there you're uncertain the level of borrowing. That's all going to come back to sit on you. It's time for change. It's your call. The people in this room, it's your call. You're not going to break any laws. The proposed changes could revolutionise the operation of your council in regard to flood protection and land drainage. So, the last comment I've got, Madam Chair, is does the council plan to instruct the chief executive on these sorts of issues in the long-term plan to go forward, or will council just act on staff recommendations? Is the dog wagging the tail or the tail wagging the dog? So do you just operate on staff recommendations, or is this council prepared to say to the chief executive, and why I say the chief executive, because that's the only person you employ, are you able to say, we want the council to go in this direction? Or are you just going to ask for council staff recommendations and act on that? We need change, because the cost is getting out of hand. So that's it.
So we have a question from Councillor Niban.
So look, I absolutely understand the frustrations with the consent conditions, Trevor. And I'm not involved enough to understand the ins and outs of it. However, I guess my question is, we don't have the lawful ability to instruct our chief executive to change the regional plan rules. We have to go through a process.
Okay.
There is nothing stopping you from instigating a private plan change. If you're that keen to do it, why have you not done it? Because you've been concerned about this for a very, very long time.
I don't understand that process. Sorry, what is the process?
Well, the plan rules dictate that various things are permitted activities and others are controlled activities and others are discretionary activities. Yep. The only way to change that, our CEO can't change that, is a change of the regional plan rules. Now, the council can instigate a plan change. You as a private citizen can instigate a private plan change, and anyone can do it. I'm asking why, if you're finding it that frustrating, you guys haven't done that. Yeah, I don't expect an answer now, but I think it's something you guys should think about. Yeah,
probably because we don't know the process. Yeah. To be honest. Okay. Big comment.
Yeah. I just want to make the point that it sounds easy for us to instruct the CEO, but we'd be instructing him to break the law, which.
Yeah. Would this council be able to do the plan change?
We could instigate one. Yeah. Yeah, but it's got to go through a whole bunch of tests.
I realise that, but it's always it's a long term.
We've got to be confident that we can achieve the outcome we want. Otherwise, it becomes a waste of further ratepayers' money, which I know you wouldn't either. Yeah.
Well, is that a step forward? And what I'm saying is that the way to go? Would this council support looking at permitted activity as a plan change?
Potentially provide. Well, I can't speak on behalf of the council, but yeah, happy to.
And that's not the long term plan, is it? That's another process.
Budget process.
And is that an annual process?
3 yearly. Budgeting is 3 yearly.
Okay. Maybe, Madam Chair, I can talk to Noel and Robbie about what this process is.
Yeah. Or you could talk to me as one of your constituent councillors, but certainly something we can explore.
But I gather, not wasted, I gather there may be support from the council if we do this, because it is a game changer if that can happen quickly.
I think that one thing we could do is through ICM as well as the subcommittees, we could put forward a paper regarding the process so that the committee is aware of the process that we would have to go through.
Yeah.
And then we can look
And a
at
similar
next steps.
process would be for a private plan change too.
Mm.
Madam Chair.
But if there's a significant issue that is region-wide, then why wouldn't we address it region-wide? But
Okay, thank you.
we'll work down that. Yes?
Yes, Madam Chair. Trevor, can I just publicly thank you and your colleagues, your brothers in arms, so to speak, the time that you have individually and collectively put into drainage and river matters in the last 18 months has been outstanding. And I know you're not only working for yourself, but you've got the community at heart. So it's been a pleasure to work with you, and I hope we continue working in the same vein going forward. And the points that you've made are held dearly and are shared by many, including myself. We could probably do better. So I do appreciate you, as others have done, fronted up here and personally given your opinion. It speaks volumes about yourself and also to those who you support. Thank you very much.
Okay, appreciate it. Thanks for time.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry, Trevor. Just,
Yeah,
we
so
do have a bit of time, so I'll just.
Just to follow on out with our discussion, I'd be keen at any time to have a chat with you about a number of points in your presentation, because I think it's really important that we understand some of the science sitting behind some of the problems, particularly in the whangamarino, and the commentary, for example, around koi carp. It's way too easy to blame koi carp for the problem, when in fact koi carp scientifically has been proven to be a symptom of a broader environmental problem, which is the addition of nutrient and sediment into the system. What we've done essentially, because of the way we've managed the land, is made it koi carp heaven. And we need to think more broadly about how we can fix those sorts of things. And that is also the purpose of the 400K that's been allocated in the plan, is really to scope out solutions, not to reinvent the wheel and repeat studies that have been done before. So I'm always interested in a dialogue, and I'd be happy at any time to come and see you and talk some of those issues through. Thank you.
Great.
Well, I appreciate that, and we'll be in touch. You can come and have a cup of tea at Rangiora, and I'll have all the grumpy old men there to have a chat.
No, I'm one too, don't you?
Great. Thank you very much, Trevor. Much appreciated. All right, councillors, we will.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to say,
Sorry. Yes.
I find the flexibility you've allowed in this last one is a much better process. I think we really did a disservice to Simon Perry and not allowing him extra time, and that I would prefer the system you ran yesterday. When I looked through, most of the ones could have 10 minutes, and that we should allow that flexibility.
I'm just looking at the next section, though, where we've got 3 5-minute sections back to back. We've got then 2 5s and a 10 back to back, and then another 3 5s back to back. So it is, I am in council's hand, but either it is we are a stickler for 5 minutes, or we have flexibility for everybody. I can't chop and change. Otherwise, excuse me, I have not adjourned this meeting. I have not adjourned this meeting. Please come back. I have not adjourned this meeting, Councillor Smith. And we are talking through what is going to be our process so that we have a defendable process. Can I get you to please take your seat, Councillor Smith? I'm trying to have a discussion as council as to how we are going to get through this. I would appreciate you to participate in it. Thank you. So councillors, either we have the same rules for everybody, or there's going to be a challenge in how we defend this process. So it's either 5 minutes or the 10 minutes allocated, and we stick to it, or there's going to have to be flexibility for everybody. I am in your hands. What is your preference?
Well, my preference is flexibility. We just broke that rule with the last person. Yes, we did.
Yeah,
They
it
had
was 3
15
groups.
minutes.
3
They had
people.
15
He had
minutes.
3
15 minutes.
submissions.
Yes.
5, 5, 5.
5, 5,
15
5,
minutes.
15 minutes. At the end of 45 seconds, Councillor Kneebone spoke, then we had Councillor Smith, and then we had Councillor Clarkson. No, they're not. Many of them have got 10 minutes and some of them are mixed in together. I'm just saying
All
that I
right,
think
I'm
it's
going to,
frustrating.
for the next section, because it is so tight, I am going to adhere to 5 minutes. It is going to be 5 minutes. If there is time for questions, we will allow it. If there is not, we will move on to the next presenter. All right, we are now going to adjourn this meeting. The time is 10:42. Our next presenter is on at 11:10, so I ask that everybody is back at 11:05. Thank you.